They laughed when they tossed the keys across the table like they were doing me a favor. "That old dump is more than you deserve," sneered Evelyn Carter, my late husband's sister, her pearls clinking against the glass of wine in her hand. The rest of the family chuckled along, eyes gleaming with the kind of cruelty that feeds off another person's humiliation. I sat there in a chair that felt too big for me, my fingers tight around the armrests, thinking 3 days ago I buried my husband, and now they're burying me in shame. The lawyer read the will, his voice dry and careful. The Carters were getting the businesses, the investments, the grand family estate. And me, just a 2-story house rotting away outside of town. No electricity, no running water, weeds crawling over the porch like they owned the place. That's all they believed I was worth. Evelyn leaned closer, her perfume sharp. "We hope you'll be happy in your new residence. It suits people like you." I should have crumbled right there, but instead I smiled, just a half smile barely visible. Because what they didn't know was that my husband Daniel had whispered something to me 3 months before his accident. About that house, about its true worth. And I had been quietly digging into it ever since. So I stood, picked up the rusty keys, and said, "Thank you for your generosity." I walked out with my dignity intact, even as they laughed behind me. The first time I drove up that dirt road with my daughter Layla, the house looked exactly like they described, abandoned, haunted even. Broken windows, paint peeling the front steps, sagging like an old man's back. Layla wrinkled her nose. "Mom, this place is cursed. Are you sure Dad wanted you to have it?" My hand trembled on the doorknob, not from fear but from anticipation. He brought me here once, I told her, said it was the most special place he knew, a place the family would never understand. Inside, dust coated everything but the bones of the house. They were too strong, too stubborn to die. I remember Daniel saying, "This house has survived storms, fires, even men who tried to tear it down." That night, while Layla slept, I dug through old records online. The builder's name kept appearing, Elijah Golding, a miner from the 1800s. And right there, in an obscure article, one strange line. Golding was rumored to mix his own gold into the construction of his home, hiding treasure in plain sight. My heart raced. Could that be what Daniel had meant? A few days later, Layla tapped on the upstairs wall and frowned. "Mom, this sounds weird, hollow but heavy at the same time." I pressed my ear against it, knocked once. The sound was dense solid, like something thick was buried inside. That same afternoon, Evelyn called her voice, fake sweet. "Darling, I hear you're trying to clean that ruin. Don't waste your money. My brother is willing to take it off your hands, $5,000. Family charity." I almost laughed out loud. 5,000 for a house that might be lined with gold. "I'll think about it," I said, scraping at a patch of wall while golden flecks caught the sunlight. I needed proof. So I called an old friend, Professor Alan Kim, a geologist Daniel trusted. Alan arrived quietly one Saturday with his equipment. We tested room by room until the detector shrieked upstairs. His eyes widened. "This isn't just a trace, Maya. These walls are laced with gold. Significant amounts. Conservatively, 10, maybe 15 million. I almost collapsed from the weight of it. Not the gold, but the irony. The Carters thought they'd humiliated me with a worthless burden. Instead, they'd handed me a fortune disguised as trash. But I knew better than to celebrate too soon. People like Evelyn don't back down easy. Sure enough, her brother Charles showed up one afternoon drunk, leaning on the porch rail. "You think you're smart? That house is a curse. You'll sink money into it until you drown. Sell now or you'll regret it." His eyes narrowed, voice dropping low. My family has plans for this land. If you stay, business neighbors can make life complicated. I smiled, broom still in my hand. Thanks for the warning, Charles. What I didn't say was that every threat, every insult was being recorded. Daniel taught me to be patient, to collect receipts before making a move. And now I was gathering evidence with every smug phone call and every whispered threat. 2 weeks later, I made my own call. Evelyn, I said calmly, I'm ready to sell. But I want the whole family present at the signing. She nearly squealed with joy, already planning champagne for the celebration of my defeat. The day of the meeting, they swarmed into the lawyer's office like vultures, circling what they thought was a carcass. Charles smirked. 10,000. Final offer. More than it's worth, but we're generous. Evelyn clasped her pearls, oozing false pity. We're saving you from years of taxes and repairs, Maya. You should thank us. That's when I laid the folder on the table. Actually, the property's already been appraised. Charles laughed, flipping the first page. Then his face drained of color. 11,400,000. Evelyn snatched the paper, her hand-shaking eyes darting back and forth like she couldn't read. Alan stepped into the room, voice steady. In fact, with full analysis, we estimate closer to 15 million. The silence was heavy. Then Evelyn snapped, That's impossible. How did you know? Because my husband told me, I said softly. He wanted to protect me. He left me exactly what you would underestimate. But I wasn't done. I slid another folder across the table. Inside evidence Daniel had gathered before his death. Charles had embezzled company funds. Evelyn had schemed to rewrite the will. And then I pressed play on my laptop. Charles's voice boomed in the room crystal clear. Let her try to fight us, a poor black woman against our family. She'll give up in 2 weeks. The lawyer's jaw tightened. Evelyn's mascara ran down her cheeks. Charles slammed his fist on the table. You tricked us. No, I said, standing tall. You tricked yourselves. Your greed, your arrogance. They did this. My lawyer, Patricia, leaned forward. My client is filing charges for racial discrimination, coercion, and attempted fraud. The evidence is overwhelming. Evelyn's voice cracked. Maya, we're family. I looked at her calm as ever. Family doesn't laugh while handing me scraps. Family doesn't try to steal from a widow and her daughter. You gave me what you thought was trash, and it turned out to be worth more than everything you own combined. That's not family. That's justice. I walked out while their empire crumbled behind me. Months later, the house had transformed into the Golden Legacy Foundation, named not just for the man who built it, but for what it stood for now. We fought housing discrimination, helped families reclaim stolen property, gave people the tools to stand up to the powerful. Layla thrived at her new school, already talking about studying law. The Carters. They fell hard. Charles lost his license, his reputation smeared across headlines. Evelyn's social circle evaporated. The country club quietly dropped her name from the guest list. One day she even called me, her voice trembling. He's lost everything. He drinks too much. Is there any way we can make this right? I paused a long time, staring at my daughter studying under the old oak in our yard. Evelyn, you didn't lose everything because of me. You lost it because of your choices. But if Charles wants help, our foundation runs a rehabilitation program. He'll have to face what he did learn about the damage prejudice causes. Only then can he rebuild. 6 months later, Charles sat in those meetings a shadow of his old self. Evelyn never showed, but she sent a public letter of apology that made the front page. On the 1-year anniversary of the foundation, I stood in that golden house before a crowd of families, activists, even politicians. 2 years ago, I told them I was handed the keys to an abandoned house with laughter ringing in my ears. They thought they were humiliating me. Today, that house stands as proof that no injustice stays hidden forever, and sometimes what others call worthless is the very thing that changes everything. The applause thundered, but in my heart, it was Daniel's voice I heard, steady, proud. And that's why I tell this story now. Because sometimes revenge isn't slamming the door on your enemies, it's building a new door so strong they can't touch you. It's turning their arrogance into your foundation. So let me ask you, if life ever handed you something that looked like trash, but deep down you felt it might hold hidden worth, would you fight for it? Or would you let the laughter of others convince you to walk away? Tell me in the comments, because I think that's where the real debate begins.